Thanks for having me here in Lincoln today. While I try to figure out this microphone, I'm going to show you guys a short little video clip. Today we are standing in not just an ordinary building, but the state capitol, the institution of government for the land of Iowa. Government is an institution of God's, and He created it with the purpose to punish evil and reward good. A government's primary purpose is to punish evil and reward good. How can you determine good and evil without the Church of Jesus Christ? So in the Church Ambassador Network, what we are working to do is we are bringing the shepherds of God's church to the shepherds of God's government. We bring the pastors of Iowa to the elected officials of Iowa. You see, God has never merged these two institutions, no. But He has had these two institutions work together throughout history. And only in this relationship can government fulfill its purpose. And when it does it, it is a blessing to its people. During the legislative session in this very room, what we call the Rotunda, which connects the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate, there's a group of pastors here building a relationship with the different elected officials.
I would like to see pastors there every day, all day. As pastors, you play an important role in the spiritual life of individuals, and who more to help guide those who make legislation that truly impacts the state and the people back in their local parishes. For pastors that are looking for truly a mission field that is ripe, we are the place.
And so the big impact then is that relational contact that is going to immerse them in that trusting relationship, so that affects their entire decision making, not only with what they're doing for the state, but with their family and with their friends and as a whole person. And that's that cultural change that I think the Capitol Project is working on. Even though I've been asked for some political advice on occasion, I give it when I can, but I'm not being political, I'm being Christ-like. I'm establishing relationships with people who need relationships with people of Jesus. And to be part of their life in their specific spot in history and how it affects 5 million people in Iowa, it's very impactful. Without the proper relationship, you're never going to affect their public policy the way that God would want them to move anyway.
It is refreshing, spiritually refreshing to me. It's a way for me to get out of the four walls of the church, to be the church at the Capitol. I just love the interaction with the men and women up there. The ability to go beyond the R or the D. I like that.
Pastors, we would love for you to come and join us at the Capitol. We know you can't be here every day, but our family leader team and our church team, we fill you in on everything that's going on. You feel equipped as if you yourself are here every single day. We're not here to pick sides in the political parties. No, God's on neither side. The question is, who's on the Lord's side? So we encourage you to join us in being missionaries to the Iowa Capitol. God desires all people to be saved, and He desires all people to bring Him glory, and so do we.
Wow, what an opportunity. I hope you join us. I hope you join us in prayer. I hope you join us by engaging your network, telling your congregation about this mission field, and encouraging your fellow pastors to join us at the Capitol. I hope you join us by showing up and being the church to the culture. I also hope that you join us by giving. The scripture says where your heart is, that's where your treasure will be also. So be a part of something bigger and join this model, join this movement.
All right. I'm blessed to be able to work for a ministry called the Family Leader. We do have a Nebraska-affiliated organization, also known as the Nebraska Family Alliance, based here out of Lincoln. We're part of the Focus on the Family network of organizations. There's 38 national partners that work together, based out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I will share this with you. I was born here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So my birth certificate is a Nebraska birth certificate. But I haven't lived here since I was 7. Now, I did root for the Cornhuskers, but then the University of Iowa offered me a nice scholarship. So I converted to being a Hawkeye. For a long time, I could root for both, but then you all had to come over to the Big Ten. And, but just for you all, I know you guys are on a bye week this week, but Iowa is going to overtime against Northwestern. So if you guys see the final results, feel free just to shout it out, okay? Unless Northwestern wins out. I'm just teasing. Yeah, it is an honor to be here in Lincoln. Actually, my grandmother here joining me today. She lives here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Her name's Naomi Maskey. Grandma, why don't you wave? I know you're going to be upset with me for doing that. My mom moved down here with me, where she can see some of her famous. My mom, Kim Baker, and my wife, Ashley Baker. So, and Grandma and my mom do both still root for Nebraska Cornhuskers. So we haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, I'm very blessed to work within the institution of government. Government also often gets a bad rap because of it. A lot of times we critique it, we're not big fans of it, we like to complain about it. We tend to forget that it's actually one of the Lord's institutions. According to Romans 13, God instituted it. Not people. In the book of Daniel, it says, no king rises or falls without that position. The government is a very special institution, the institution of justice. It says in Romans 13, government's primary purpose is to punish evil and reward those who do good. Question I have for you all: how do you determine good and evil without the Church of Jesus Christ? How do you do it? We like to hold up examples like Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler. We forget that they were popularly elected for the German and Russian people. They're chosen to be leaders. And our history is not clean either. Many things we believed in this nation for a long time, including slavery, was an idea of the majority. People apart from God are prone to sin, are they not? What does it say in the Proverbs? Many ways seem right to a man, and in the end they lead to death. In our flesh, we can justify anything. And putting ourselves in the proper circumstances, we'd be amazed at what we can do. What's difficult for us to admit in our flesh, apart from God, we have more in common with that shooter in Las Vegas than we do our Lord Jesus Christ. And man apart from God will justify things and call what God calls evil good. What God calls good evil. And I'm sure there's many times we think in the United States of America that we've done this. We're here for Lutherans for life, right? By law, 60 million children have lost their lives. By law. Our government says it's okay, so is it okay? The institution of government says that it's good. And we collectively, for over 40 years as a nation, have been okay with this. This is the harm and consequences of when God was removed from government. You see, it's actually impossible for government to fulfill its God-given purpose without the Church of Jesus Christ. It needs the church. And throughout history, the church has served as the moral compass to government. Whether that be Joseph approaching Pharaoh, Moses approaching Pharaoh, Daniel before 4 different emperors, two different empires. Or Jesus before Pilate, Paul before Caesar himself, John the Baptist before Herod, Nehemiah before Darius. List goes on and on and on. Nathan before David, Elijah before Ahab. Throughout history, God has had an interaction with His church in the system of government. And then the kings of those times listened. The people were blessed. But when the kings did not listen, people suffered. Let's go back to the first example I gave with Pharaoh. Were there two different end results between the Pharaoh of Joseph and the Pharaoh of Moses? Was Egypt not blessed under Joseph when Pharaoh listened to him? Did Egypt not experience blessings by putting Joseph in the power that the Pharaoh decided to put in? What happened to the other Pharaoh? The Pharaoh who refused to listen to Moses, even though God multiple times went before the great emperor and warned him. Gave him multiple chances. That Pharaoh and his massive army ends up in the Red Sea. If you're looking for a fascinating documentary that's on Netflix, there is a documentary called Exodus that actually goes through, and they have found tons of archaeological and historical evidence to back up that there was an Exodus in Egypt. And there was a Pharaoh who mysteriously disappeared after a great famine came across the land. Mysteriously, his army was gone. Invaders came in. This Pharaoh is also the last Pharaoh of the Second Empire. Egypt had three different empires: the Old Kingdom, the Old Kingdom's the pyramids. That's the one we know in school oftentimes. There's the Middle Kingdom and the Third Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom ended with that Pharaoh. The entire Egyptian kingdom collapsed. Evidence of Jews living in the land at that time mysteriously rapidly gone. Archaeological evidence backing this up. You see, there's consequences when government fails to fulfill its purpose. And it's not just the king who suffers. People. Now, I just didn't end up at the Capitol one day and started preaching the good Lord. I'd like to say that was the case, but my spiritual life took a bit of a journey. I used to be a very partisan man. I gave my life to a party identity and I idolized it. It was my idol. During my time at the University of Iowa, I was anything but a Christian. I lived the typical University of Iowa life. For those of you that don't know the stereotypes of Iowa, it's very much known as a drinking school. #1 in the country. I very much plunged into that, plunged into a humanist lifestyle. I considered myself an atheist at the time at the University of Iowa, but God wasn't so gracious to allow me to stay there. Or I should say, He was so gracious to not allow me to stay there when I moved to Des Moines. My entire life started in the civic arena about this idea of two different political parties going after each other. I treated it like a chess match. And I wanted my team to win. I didn't care why. I wanted them to win. Who would ask me about pro-life issue? I would have told you pro-choice. I'm a millennial. Who would ask me about gay marriage? I would have said I'm millennial. Who are we to tell other people how to live? And I believe that that section of this Republican Party that came to worship would just be quiet. We would start winning elections. That was my life. It was all about winning. It was all about winning. Then April 18, 2010, the Lord got a hold of me. I'm born again at a Walnut Creek Church in Des Moines. Left the arena of politics, and I didn't know what to think anymore. Everything I believed didn't make any sense. So I left. For 1 year, I attended church regularly, Bible studies, was discipled. Somebody carried out the Great Commission in my life, taught the Lord's Word, and began to read it every day. And God changed the way I thought. Not facts. If you give me all the facts in the world, you weren't going to change my opinion. God's Spirit changes. And for 1 year, I didn't go anywhere near college. I didn't think I'd ever go back. Originally, I thought I would be a history teacher. I thought I'd go back to being a history teacher. Teaching history seemed more exciting. So 1 year into it, God asked me to work for the family there. Bob Vanderplots, our CEO, there approached me to see if I'd be political director. I said no 7 times. I don't do politics anymore. I don't know any better. I don't know how. I said everything I once thought I don't understand anymore. And God wouldn't leave me alone. He says, this time you're going to do it for me. Now I say, oh wow, I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't. I didn't have it figured out yet. So, to undo my past work, I decided I'm going to be that guy that gets involved in primaries. I'm going to make sure good pro-life candidates get elected, and I'm going to defeat the other side, the enemy. And for about 2 years, I gave my life to that, until all my candidates lost. Every single one of them. And I go, okay, Lord, if this is what you have, why are they all losing? Why are you doing this to me now? Why are you doing this to me? God goes, Craig, were you so foolish to put your hope in a state senate? I did. I thought, man, if we could just get that state senate in Des Moines, we could change the state. I put my hope in that. It was wrong. So I went to go see my boss, and I told him, I don't think I can stay here anymore. He says, Greg, I want you to start doing a little bit more public policy. Public policy, that's it. That's it. Public policy, you're right. You know what? Man, our people are struggling in the church. Man, 80% of Christians struggle with pornography. I'm going to go do something about it. I'm going to fight pornography. I'm going to help adoption. We're going to help save our children. I'm going to give my life to that. Every single one of my bills I work with God. Every single one. God reminded me again, Greg, these are good things. You're putting your hope in legislation. Then my boss came to me again, and this one I looked at him like he was nuts. He goes, Greg, I want you to leave our church network. Your church network? What are you talking about? I've known the Lord for 5 years. I've never gone to seminary. I'm not leaving your church network. There's no way you're going to find somebody else. Well, you're either going to leave or you're not going to work here anymore. Well, I'm going to figure this out. But something really moved me. That's how we eventually get to this video. And the state capitol in Des Moines, for about the last 10 years, a group of independent Baptists has come up to the Capitol once a month. Okay, once a month. Started this guy named Brad Cranston, small little city of Burlington, Iowa. It's out in Mississippi River. Like 30,000 people. When Iowa came out for gay marriage in 2009 by the Iowa Supreme Court, Pastor Cranston says, I need to go to Des Moines. He goes to Des Moines. He has to go talk to the state senator. He says, you felt it was so fruitful. I'm going to start bringing my brothers. Over the years now, once a month, the Independent Baptist in the Capitol, an average of 60 pastors. Once a month. They weren't just up there for public policy. They're there to witness the gospel and pray. I thought, Lord, if you could do that with one denomination, one day, what would happen to the greater church of Jesus Christ on a daily basis? Says, I have no clue what I'm doing in this job. I'm going to take a crack at doing that. First year, we had 25% of the days covered. Second year, we had 80% of the days covered. This last year, every single day, there's a group of pastors at the Iowa Capitol. Every single day at the average of 10. We had over 700 pastors in the Iowa Capitol since we started this. The video was highlighted. Now with the goal to pass legislation. Not with the goal to pick sides and political partisan battles, but the goal to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to our government. You see, King David ruled with justice and righteousness throughout Israel because he walked with the Lord his God. I have not seen anyone greater than David in all of Israel, because his heart is a heart that beats after my own heart. King Solomon, the Lord asked Solomon, I'll give you anything in the world, anything that you want, just because you're the son of David. I'll give you anything. Solomon goes, God, give me wisdom. Why? Because I can govern these great people for yours. Why we bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to government? It is impossible to administer justice without God. You can't do it. If they don't have a relationship with the Lord, their heart is not beating after His heart, they are not going to have justice. You can't have it. God is the source of justice. And in the very symbol of our faith is the symbol of justice for us. The very symbol of the Christian faith. Not just justice, but also mercy. And God has got this unbelievable balance between justice and mercy. When we as the church tell God that government doesn't matter, we're telling them justice doesn't matter. And you say that to His Son. God could have just forgiven our sins. He could have done it. He could have said, you know what, my children, your sins are forgiven. He could have done it. But He couldn't. Because He's a God of justice. He's a God of justice. And He wouldn't be a God of justice if He simply forgave our sin. He's a God of mercy. He's a God of justice. And He took that justice out of His Son. The justice that you and I deserve. When we're honest with ourselves, we look at our hearts, and we quit comparing ourselves to other people, and actually look at our hearts and compare ourselves to a holy God, we understand that we deserve justice. We deserve the cross. And Jesus just didn't bear any justice. He bared the worst death penalty the world's ever seen in all history. Worse than the electric chair. Last days together in the electric chair, not in Nebraska. Worse than lethal injection. Worse than even some of the most barbaric things we saw in the Middle Ages. The cross was the worst. It wasn't the nails that killed you. It wasn't the blood. It was suffocation. She would hang there on those iron nails. Your bodies. And you'd have to push up on that nail just to go over your feet, just to be able to breathe. For 6 hours, Jesus did that. For 6 hours. Worst death than we could ever imagine. Why? Because God had to. It's God of justice. Neither you and I pay the penalty, or Jesus pays it for us. That's what makes Christianity unique from any other faith in this world. No other faith has this. Islam, Judaism, I don't care what it is. Nobody answers the same question. The only one that can answer, how is justice served? So if anybody in the world should understand justice, it's the Church of Jesus Christ. But also, if anyone should understand mercy, it's the Church of Jesus Christ as well. So I don't know about you, but by God's mercy I stand. I am not worthy. By His grace I am here. And everything that is done is by His grace. And government has an unbelievable responsibility to administer justice and mercy to its people. And if it does it properly, in the way that King David did it, it will bless its people. Government in itself is an example of God's graciousness. When we fell in the Garden of people, God could have left us to our own devices. He could have left us. He said, you know what, you figure this out on your own. We would have killed each other all the time. Do you guys remember watching the footage from Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans? What happened in the Army and the police and the fire department and everybody pulled out? It's madness. That's what anarchy looks like. God in His justice and God in His mercy gave us government. And He says, this is a gift for you in this life to protect you from one another. Government is not a savior and it never will be a savior. Jesus Christ is your only savior. But government is a protector. And I always ask myself, Greg, why are you pro-life? Why do you take any of the stances that you take? Because Because God's word is righteous and it's true. Why did Jesus come? I came so you may have life and you may have it abundantly. Have it abundantly. He wanted us to have life. And sin leads to death. It leads to death. And when we condone sin and we elevate it, we are leading people to death. And too many churches today are elevating sin. Churches are elevating it. And it leads people to death. I don't support pro-life just for the sake of being right. That's not why I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life because it's about life. And not just for that unborn child, but for that mother as well. There's another reason why Jesus came. There's another reason. To undo the works of the devil. What has the devil been doing? He's been lying and thieving since the beginning. He's a liar. He's the father of all lies. And he deceives people into thinking that sin leads to life. You know what he does that for? He tells her, see where the child. What are your grandparents going to say? What are your parents going to say? What are your classmates going to say? How are you going to pay for that child? How are you going to take care of it? You can't do this. You're worthless. Just get rid of it. It's not even a baby anymore. This is a tissue. Just get rid of the baby. Just go. You don't have to tell me about it. Nobody will know. Nobody will okay. Nobody will know. Nobody will know. That poor girl, she'll go to Planned Parenthood. And more than likely, she'll be serviced by somebody else who is wounded by having an abortion herself. The vast majority of Planned Parenthood workers are wounded people that have abortions. They had to tell themselves the same lies over and over again just to be able to come with their hands. And she'll sit there and say the lie there all the way until the abortion. Once he has an abortion, what he's going to do? He's going to change those lies right away. You're a murderer. You're worthless. You don't deserve death. And he'll haunt her. That's what he does. He's a liar. He's a thief. And Jesus said, I came to destroy his works. And how did he do it? He testified the truth. Why? Because the truth leads to life. That's why I'm pro life. Exposing the scumbag for what he does. Not just in this issue, but in everything. Because God says, if you follow my way, it leads to life. The law isn't here to be cruel. It's not here to be a moralistic set of rules. God is not a moralist. He's a God of life. He's a God of life. Because you obey my word, you will live. And these things don't do them because I love you and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to get hurt. That is why I made my laws a gift, and that's why I gave the government to protect you from death. That's government's job, is here to protect you and lead you to life. The law is a guardrail. You're driving up the Rocky Mountains, you are thankful for that guardrail. You know what happens when it's not there. That's what God's law is. It can't save you, but it will protect you. And I will never be apologetic for standing for the Lord's word, not only in government, but anywhere. Because I want to expose Satan for his deeds. He's taken too many people captive. Jesus came to testify the truth, to combat his lies. He came to pay for sin, so you and I may be free. And then he defeats death last of all on the third day. He undid the devil's work. And we, as his people, that we have repented and believed in him, are to live a new life. Because the 8th day was a new life. It's a new life. And we are to share that with other people, that they too can be set free from the bondage of this earth. This earth is perishing. This earth is perishing. That beautiful capital in Nebraska will not be there forever. That beautiful capital in Washington, D.C., Des Moines, St. Paul, wherever you live, Topeka won't be there forever. But God and his word will be. And he says, and believe, and then go tell others. We are his ambassadors here on this earth. Our nation's in difficult times right now, friends. Our nation's in difficult times. You look at Washington, D.C., and you see a city that's completely dysfunctional. Neither side has answers to the trouble and issues facing our nation, but neither side is willing to sit down and listen to the other one. Because they care more about the re-election. You see justice not being served in so many areas. I've mentioned abortion. Brother before me mentioned human trafficking. The list goes on and on and on in injustices in this world. It is a constant reality to us what happened in that garden. It's a constant reminder to us what our greater mission is in the Great Commission. The Church of Jesus Christ is ultimately what the world has to set the world free. There is nothing else. Nothing. No ideology, world, communism, socialism, capitalism, none of these things can set these people free. None of them. Just the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that is why Satan wants to silence this church. And the American church has been silent. And too many of the American churches have walked away from the scriptures. Paul warned about it. He warned about it to his disciple Timothy. Nothing is new under the sun, Solomon says. Nothing is new under the sun here. Paul said a day will come. They will no longer tolerate sound doctrine. They will teach what the people of itching ears want to hear. This is the church. But not so with you, Timothy. Not so with you. Timothy, I want you to be sober-minded. Meaning, don't get drunk on the things of this world. Don't get over enthralled with all the beauty that you see around you. Be sober. Remember this time here is temporary. Remember your time here is short. Pay careful attention to how you walk, Paul said. The days are few. The days are few. Number 2. Do the work of an evangelist. Do the work of an evangelist. Because he understood a day would come when people would say, it's not my responsibility. That's somebody else's responsibility. That's my pastor's responsibility. That's the deacon's responsibility. That's a parachurch's responsibility. It's not mine. Not so with you, Timothy. Not so with you. You do the work of an evangelist and he falls up and endure the hardships. I mean, this isn't going to be easy. It's not easy to swim upstream in culture when you do it. You swim upstream, Timothy. You endure the hardships of your ministry. God has raised up a remnant in this nation. A remnant. One of the most beautiful things I've seen at the Iowa Capitol is, let me tell you about these 3 best friends. West Des Moines, Missouri Synod Lutheran, we saw on TV there. An Assembly of God pastor in Marshalltown. And an evangelical free pastor in Ames. We become best friends. Why? Because they're working to further the kingdom of God. There's a remnant in this land, and the question we have to ask ourselves, the very first question we need to ask. Are we part of that remnant? Is that me? If it is, God, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? Me, I'm blessed to work at our Capitol. And Lord, wherever you call me after that, I'll do it. But I'm going to bring the gospel there. And I want to see people set free. I want to see the works of Satan undone. I want to stand up for that poor woman that's being lied to right now today. Who doesn't have a life. That mere tissue is just to disappear in your life with an easy lie. I'm there to stand up for that unborn child people told has no value, and I know God paid for. I'm going to do my part. God did the works of me. The question is for you, will you join his remnant this day? The time is now for us to leave the pews and get back into communities. And this is this reality. The moral majority doesn't exist. It's not real. There isn't a hidden majority in this land that's ready to stand for God's truth. That's okay. Did Gideon have a majority? Oh. God works through remnants. You go to Elijah. Elijah, there's 7,000 knees in this land that you have to bow. 120 people met in Jerusalem and started the church that you and I are sitting thousands of miles away. God could take this group right here and turn out the city upside down. Questions are faithful. they do. Will the remnant rise up and reach every area of culture? Every area. And that includes our government. One of the things I've learned in government, I'm learning from the Apostle Paul. 1 Corinthians 9. I have become all things to all people in order to save some. To the Jews I witness like a Jew, to the Gentiles I witness like a Gentile. What I'm learning to do at the Capitol is all things to all people. To the Democrats I talk like a Democrat. And the Republicans I talk like a Republican. But the beauty of Paul is Paul never walked away from the universal truths of Scripture. He didn't compromise it. Nor do we. And what I found in Iowa is that the same number of people on each side of the aisle are spiritually soft and spiritually hard. Turns out God doesn't care about that letter behind the name. It turns out God's got a plan now. Both sides have something they're wrong in. Both sides have something they're right in. But our church, the church overall, our goal is to be the timeless voice that speaks truth. One of my favorite examples in the Bible that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around is the year of Jubilee. Help me figure out how to make that into an economic system, I tell you what. But it is complicated. It's unbelievable. This is another beautiful example of how God reigns perfectly with the right amount of mercy and the right amount of justice. You see, we as people are ditchers. We just fall into ditches. And I am guilty. I'll get out of one ditch and I'll go back right to the next one. Either we are all about justice or just too much about mercy. And you can see it in every single issue out there, whether it be immigration, pure amnesty, or the importance of the moral. There's two very different types. One respects justice, one respects mercy. That's exactly. This was beautiful about the year of Jubilee. And then when I come back, and I'm going to bring you back with you all, I'll have a little more of an understanding of this. That's what I wrapped around my mind around Jubilee right now. Every 50 years, there'd be an economic reset in the land of Israel. Every 50 years. Not every 5, not every 10, every 50. At most, depending where it fell in your life, you might get 2 years of Jubilee in your life. The vast majority not money. But the year of Jubilee wasn't a money reset. Not everyone's money went into a pot and got redistributed. It's an opportunity reset. What God would do every 50 years is He ordered all the land to return back to its original owners. To its original owners. And what that did is, if I was a fool and I used my money unwisely, got myself into debt, had to sell my land, let's say 10 years in, then I squander that money, and I start to sell myself into slavery. At the 50th year, I get set free. 50th year, I get my land back. That didn't remove all consequences for me. I had 40 years of consequences. I didn't remove the consequences. But what it did is it gave me another chance. It was just the land, it wasn't money. I had a chance and an opportunity to make wealth. And even more important, it gave the next generation opportunity. For my mistakes didn't punish the children. But for the man who was responsible, who acquired land, and made good money, the wealth wasn't taken away. You didn't take away the reward. He still received the reward. The land was returned. And land was purchased at a fair price. And the Bible, a number of years to the Jubilee. And what that did, it didn't only reward him, but it gave opportunities to the next generation to learn what it took to receive that. We don't live in an agrarian nation anymore, and life is as simple as it was for the year of Jubilee. I'm not saying we enacted exact laws, but there's lessons to God's heart in those laws. There was mercy, but there still was justice. Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? I'm sure many parents understand this. and the needs for when you did it, and what happened when you didn't. You didn't draw that line. Brothers and sisters, I just want to close with this today. I hope that you remember two things. One, the government is an institution of God's. And remember it as such. It's not an institution of this world. And the Bible says those who serve in it are his ministers of justice. And it commands us as believers to do three things: honor, pray, and submit. Honor, pray, and submit. Let's not forget that. Number two, God is raising up a remnant. Join in the work of the Great Commission. Jesus is inviting you, just like he invited Peter, Paul, John, James, Timothy, Titus, and so many others. He's asking, will you be my light in this land? Let's close with prayer, and I'm not sure what kind of time I got left, so I haven't been paying attention. Excuse me, we do a few questions. God, I just thank you so much for this opportunity to gather here today, Lord, in Lincoln. Lord, I just want to pray for the churches here in Lincoln, Nebraska, God. I just want to pray, Lord, that you be stirring in their hearts and that you be moving them, Lord. And the church would be alive in this city. We pray for revival in Lincoln, revival across the state, revival across this land, Lord. Pray you move in each and our individual hearts, God. And Lord, I pray that you move us to things that we need to confess, things that we need to surrender to you, and areas that we need to submit and go to work in, God. What do you have for each of us in this room, Lord? We thank you for your mercy and your love for us, that you did rescue us from the life that we do deserve, God. We just praise you and praise the only man that we can come to you in. And that's your beautiful Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Guys, have any questions?
Yes, okay. I'm from Illinois, from the Chicago area. We have lots of Christians involved in lobbying for faith, family, and religion issues down in Springfield. But I'm not aware of a ministry like what you're involved in going on. Is that based in other states, or is yours unique?
You're unique. Whatever reason, I don't know. God chose to put this in the world. We are working as a ministry to replicate this through our sister organizations. And our goal is over the years to come to begin a replication process. I would love to not only see this in all 50 states, I'd love to see this in Washington, and I'd love to see it in the capitals of the world. God's church is God's church, his timeless voice. And government is government, you just got to figure out who your king is. But right now, no. It is just going, but over the years that should be changing soon. Sam.
Are you related to the Nebraska Family Association? Or?
That's correct, yes. They are a sister organization, yes. That all through focus on the family. Yes, ma'am.
I want to just add something. I don't think we realize sometimes how much our elected officials need to know that we're with them in prayer. I got a call from our district office in Minnesota from the LCMS and asked if I would join the public policy director in going to a meeting at the state capitol. He had gotten a call from one of our senators who happened to be a Missouri Synod Lutheran, asked if we'd come up and meet with a few senators and pray with them because they had just heard that perhaps the University of Minnesota was purchasing baby parts through the Planned Parenthood issue. And so we went up there for a meeting, and I was amazed at the number of senators that were there, concerned, who wanted to pray. And when we got done with the meeting, he said, I've been a senator for a long time. This is the first time my fellow Lutherans came and prayed with us. So we need to reach out to them, not wait for them to call us. So what you're doing officially is just fantastic.
All 150 legislators and I have offered prayer multiple times. Not everyone's received it. And we won't release it if we request it. That's not people's business. All 150 have been offered what we call a Founder's Bible. Founder's Bible is an NASB study study Bible with devotions throughout it and how different verses impact the economy of our nation. But I will tell you this, out of 150, only 5 turned out of prayer. Only 3 turned out of Bible. That's it. Yeah, we meet the Governor, Attorney General, all our members of Congress. And we've been absolutely amazed how soft they are. But our goal is the gospel, and we let the gospel transform their life. It's the only way we're going to get justice. And here's a great verse for you saints, 1 Timothy chapter 2. First of all, then I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving made for everyone, for the kings, and for all those in authority. Why? So you may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and decency. This is good and pleases the Lord our God.